Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 23 of the Journey Running Podcast, where the goal is to help you run farther, feel smarter, and develop character through trail and ultra running. I am your host, registered dietitian, coach, and ultra runner Stefan Schuster. As always, I'd like to use the intro to this episode as a great opportunity to remind folks that Journey Running is more than just a podcast. It is also my running and nutrition coaching business. So if you or anyone you know is looking for a coach to work with or a registered dietitian, you can actually reach out to me directly on my website, journeyruncoaching.com, or via email at journeyrunningllc@gmail.com. Also, it would really mean the world to me if you could take the time, just a moment really, to rate, subscribe, like the show that you're listening to. I would really appreciate it. Some of you might have actually noticed that on Spotify, platforms like that, you can actually even comment on podcast episodes now, which is pretty cool. These small action items, I know they might seem trivial to some, but the engagement that you do provide the show does go a long way in helping more eyes and ears get on the Journey Running podcast, and I really do appreciate it. Let's see, before we get into today's episode, I have a really cool announcement. I actually just signed on to a partnership with Buff. Yes, the company that is famous for making neck gaiters. I think it's pretty cool. I think that they are the standard in the industry. I will be joining their ambassador program for the remainder of 2025 and going into 2026. So more information, I'll be putting more info about that soon on the show. One of the really cool things that Buff is going to be doing, that I'm doing with them actually, is that we worked together, I should say, to create a custom buff for Journey Running. And I have to say, I'm biased, but I think that the design is pretty spectacular. I am going to be giving some of those away for free to friends and family, but I am also going to be giving away quite a few of those buffs on the show here, so please do be on the lookout for that. I'm excited to hand some of those out to folks who are taking the time to listen to the show, just as a thank you, and I really appreciate it. But I don't have those in my hand just yet, so be on the lookout. I will announce at the beginning of one of the coming episodes when I have those, so I can start distributing them. Let's see, that's all I got for today's intro. Let's get right into the episode. So today I'm going to be talking about a cool subject, the Rocky Mountain Slam. Now, why am I talking about this? So, as you might guess, the Rocky Mountain Slam is going to be my personal goal for the 2026 racing season. So a lot of people may not know what the Rocky Mountain Slam is, and I thought that I don't think it's super well known in the world of ultra running. Even a lot of my friends who I tell I'm doing a Rocky Mountain Slam this year, they don't really know what it is. So I thought it'd be cool to make an episode on what exactly is the Rocky Mountain Slam. I just want to talk about that and some unique ways that people can go about trying to create a race schedule as we go into 2026 and finish up 2025. It is the time of year when lotteries and race registrations are on everybody's mind. Let's just start off the episode by talking about what is the Rocky Mountain Slam. So the Rocky Mountain Slam is a race series that consists of completing 4 challenging 100-milers in the Rocky Mountains. The Slam actually originated like 25 years ago, and the original Slam consisted of 4 races. It was the Hard Rock 100, the Leadville 100, the Wasatch 100, and the Bear 100. So Hard Rock and Leadville being in Colorado, and Wasatch and Bear being in Utah. Now, those listening might realize that these are some of the, grandfather races of ultra running. They've been around pretty much the longest compared to others. I know there's races older than those 4, of course, but they are some of like the original 100-mile ultramarathons that existed. And as you could imagine, a lot of these, particularly Hard Rock, are incredibly hard to get into these days because of lotteries. The Hard Rock 100, like if you apply in your first year, you have like a 0.01% chance to get in or whatever. Leadville is also quite competitive. I know many people who have applied 5 to 10 years before they finally got in. Wasatch is also a lottery now, and now the Bear itself is actually a lottery. So because of that, as time has gone on and these races have adopted lotteries due to the popularity of the sport growing and these races in particular becoming more popular themselves, the Slam actually over the years ended up adding, it would be 6 more races to the Slam on top of that. So I'm recording this on November 12th, 2025, and as of now, the Rocky Mountain Slam consists of 10 100-milers, of which you need to complete 4 of. The only race that is mandatory to complete in the Rocky Mountain Slam is the Bear 100. because it is the last race of the year, and I imagine they just, for community purposes, want to give everyone their awards at the same race, which I think is kind of cool. So, just for reference, the 10 races that make up the Rocky Mountain Slam are the Scout Mountain 100, which is in Idaho, the Bighorn 100, which is in Wyoming. So those are the two June races. I think it's kind of cool that the Rocky Mountain Slam, one of the things they do is they made sure that there were a minimum of 2 races per month that people had the option to choose from. So in June, there's 2. There's Scout Mountain and Bighorn. I'm wearing my Bighorn hat here, so those listening to this on YouTube, you can see that. Love that race. The Hard Rock 100 is in July. The Ouray 100 is in July, and the High Lonesome 100 is in July, and the Crazy Mountain 100 is in July. So Hard Rock and Ouray and High Lonesome, all Colorado races. Crazy Mountain 100 and High Lonesome are, so Crazy Mountain's in Montana, but Crazy Mountain and High Lonesome are new additions to the Slam. They were just added last month, actually. I record this November 12th. And Crazy Mountain and High Lonesome 100s were both added to as options in the Slam this year, which is kind of cool. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. But so those are the July options. You actually have 4, so the busiest month for slammers out there. And then the August races are the Wyoming Range 100, which is also in Wyoming, the Leadville 100, which is in Colorado. And then in September, the 2 options are the Wasatch Front 100 and the Bear 100. Again, the Bear being the only mandatory 100 miler that is a part of the Rocky Mountain Slam. Yeah, like I was saying, High Low and Crazy Mountain were just added last month, so now there's a total of 10 race options. It really doesn't matter which 3 you do before you finish the series up with the Bear. So that also is kind of cool because you have so many combinations and permutations of a Rocky Mountain Slam that you can put together if you're trying to do this yourself, which is cool. Yeah, the other thing that is I should note is that, you might be listening to this and think to yourself, well, Stefan, the Bear 100 is mandatory, and going into 2026, it's going to be a lottery. And that's because the Bear 100, it did fill up the last few years in just a few minutes. I mean, I ran it in 2024, and when I signed up, so I would have signed up in December 2023 for last year's edition, and that race filled up in like 10 minutes. Then in 2024 for the 2025 race, it filled up in less than 10 minutes. It filled up with the wait list within I think just 2 or 3 minutes. So unsurprisingly, the Bear is a lottery now. Technically, it's a lottery for most people. However, if you do intend to complete a Rocky Mountain Slam, and you finish the first 3 events of the series, let's say you don't get into the lottery, the Bear 100 will let you bypass their lottery if you don't get in and move you to the number 1 spot on the wait list, which essentially ensures your entry. You do have to do, obviously, the work to finish, the first 3 races of a Rocky Mountain Slam series. That's a lot of work in itself. So, you got to do the work before they'll actually just put you on top of the wait list and essentially let you in that way. So, not super easy, but it is very doable to make this Slam happen when a lot of these races, yes, they are lotteries, but a lot of them are not. You can currently sign up for, let's see, you could sign up for Scout Mountain, Bighorn, Ouray, Crazy Mountain, Wyoming Range. Yeah, you can sign up for all those, and they are not lotteries. So if you really want to do a Slam, you can guarantee yourself an entry into the Bear by signing up for 3 non-lottery events if you really want to. Or you can do what I'm going to do, because I'll talk about what my plan for Rocky Mountain Slam is in just a second. Before I get to that, I also want to talk about, why is this something that all of a sudden I'm really excited about, and why is this on my mind? And, obviously I must be excited about it if I'm putting out and recording an entire podcast episode on this subject. So, I am going to talk for a second about, why am I excited to be talking about a Rocky Mountain Slam, and why is it my goal for 2026? So, yeah, there's a few reasons. I would say for myself, I am at the point in my ultra running career where I do need to start being a bit more creative in how I challenge myself. I've run 14 100 milers now, including 2 Moab 240s. I think that the standard that I've seemed to deem as, something really challenging for myself, it's quite high. I think that I personally thrive best as an athlete when I have a really challenging event or events on my calendar. I personally seem to thrive, and I just like love the process of training for really tough mountain 100s. The idea of really high failure rate and running through really beautiful places and steep trails, and I don't know, that just excites me. The fact that only 82 people ever completed a Rocky Mountain Slam is also kind of a cool fun fact. Given that's been around for 25 years, that means that, like, on average, only a few people are completing it every year. And yeah, I do intend to complete it in pretty difficult fashion when I talk about what races I'm planning to sign up for this year. The second reason that I want to do a Rocky Mountain Slam, though, and I thought that it made sense for me, is just that I love the Bear 100. I'm wearing my shirt here if you're for the Bear, if you're watching on YouTube. It is my favorite race ever. I mean, the Bear 100 and the Moab 240 are my two favorite events. They're very different from each other. Obviously, a race like Moab, it's so long that you just have the opportunity to see so much more. You're running through like slick rock and canyons and beautiful red rock formations in the Moab area when you start the race. And then you go through two mountain ranges, being the Abajos and the LaSalles, and then you're back. You finish the race on Porcupine Rim and with red rock formations and slick rock everywhere again. Moab's super cool because of all the landscape changes that you go through during the race, but it's 240 miles. It also gives you the opportunity to see more just because of the distance, really. When it comes to the 100-mile distance, though, I love the Bear 100. I think it's so cool that it runs through Logan Canyon, such a beautiful place. I mean, I love it when a race director will plant an incredible event in basically the middle of nowhere. Like, why would I have ever traveled to Logan, Utah for the first time if the Bear 100 wasn't there? And if the Bear 100 wasn't there, I wouldn't have seen the beauty of Logan Canyon. I would have never seen a Bear Lake in my life. And I mean, it's just so beautiful and so cool. The community there is amazing. They had last time I was there, they had like a pizzeria themed aid station, and they were serving like actual pizza at Tony Grove, the halfway point. The fall colors on the trail are majestic. The whole race is essentially single track. I mean, I love that race, and regardless of if I was going to be doing a slam in 2026, I would be signing up for the Bear 100 for hopefully my third time doing it. It's epic. I can't say it's impossible to talk too highly of the Bear. It's just awesome. So highly recommend that race whether you're doing a slam or not. But third, I did just finish grad school and my dietitian residency last year. I could probably afford to go and do a 200-miler next year if I really wanted to, but I don't really want to limit myself to just one race. So the other thing I like about the Slam is that it gives me the chance to have multiple really hard races on my calendar that combine, I think, for a really tough challenge. I think that all of these races alone are a life accomplishment, really, but I think that the chance of failure doing 4 of these events over the course of a 4-month period of time is so high. And I've yet to DNF, knock on wood, just knocked on my desk here. But I think the chance of failure is so high that also really attracts me because, like I was saying before, I've done so much that for me to really like feel challenged, I need to do some tough shit like this. So that really excites me. This really fits the bill, and I'm super stoked to do that and also try some new races. I know I've done the Bear twice already, and it'll be my third, but I think that at minimum 2 of the 4 races I do in the Slam are going to be new events for me, and I get really stoked by the idea of seeing new places. The other thing that I was thinking about when signing up for a Slam this year is just that, I spent this whole year, if you've listened to this podcast for the last few months, you'll hear me talk about my schedule running Western States. I still have to put out a recap of my Leadville 100, but I really spent this whole year focusing on speed and performance in training and in racing. I really like the idea of variety in my running career. So to me, the idea of slowing down and focusing on just finishing races, really hard mountain races, as opposed to focusing on speed, performance, placement, stuff like that, I think that really excites me. Focusing on just finishing races is actually what got me into the sport of ultra running anyway. I just got really tired of like the marathon environment and social scene where you're it feels like you're just defined by your ticks on a stopwatch, aka your time, or did you BQ, stuff like that. So I really got an ultra running just because I wanted something a bit more low key and chill. So, I've been joking with my friends a lot that I'm going to be more of a power hiker in 2026 than an ultra runner. And I also just like the idea of running alone. When you're trying to run really, really fast, like if you're trying to run your best Western States, your best Leadville, your best whatever event you're doing, Javelina just happened a few weeks ago. Like if you really want to do your best, then having a pacer is, I think, the way to go. If you want to run fast, then you should have a crew, you should have support, you should have people who are there to help take off every tick of a stopwatch that you possibly can. And after having pacers at wonderful pacers, mind you, at both Western States and Leadville, the idea of spending more alone time in the woods to me sounds really empowering, I think is the word I'm looking for. I like the feeling of the solitude of being alone in the woods and the feeling of being a proficient ultra runner who's getting himself from point A to point B without a crew of pacers. So I'll probably be doing 2 or 3 at minimum of the races in the slam without a crew of pacers, and I just enjoy that. I think it's fun. But yeah, anyways, now that you know what the Rocky Mountain Slam is, why I'm doing it, I'll talk about my slam, and then I'm going to talk about, other slams that you guys can do out there. There are more slams than just the Rocky Mountain Slam. I'm not sure if you guys knew that, so I'll get into stuff like that in a second too. So, let's talk about what my schedule is going to look like though. So for those who need additional help planning a race schedule, you can also check out, I just want to remind folks, you can check out episode 16 of the Journey Running podcast, which is titled How to Build a Race Schedule. So you might get some good ideas there, but maybe hearing some of my logic from this episode might help guide you to picking your race schedule for 2026 as well. So, all right, you know what the slam is. I'm going to talk now about what is my slam going to look like. So the first race that I'm going to be doing is the Scout Mountain 100. The reason I'm going to be starting with Scout is there's a few reasons. Number one, it just looks like a cool race. When you go to the website, I just like the old school vibes that they basically portrays. I like the fact that it sounds like weather can be very variable. It sounds like you could have snow on course. It sounds like it could be really hot some years. It's another high alpine race with expansive views in a new place I've never been to before. So for me, that's a race that I'm 100% going to be doing in 2026. I'm going to be signing up December 1st, the same second registration opens. And then obviously, the Bear 100 is mandatory, so I don't think I really need to say this again, but I will be doing the Bear, whether I get into the lottery or not. I will be doing the Bear. I mean, if I don't get in the lottery, that means I do have to earn my way in by finishing 3 of my events. And obviously, if I DNF one, then I'm not going to be doing the Bear. But hopefully that won't be the case. So Scout Mountain is how I'm going to start. And that race is like June 5th-ish. 5th to 6th, I think it is next year. The Bear is late September. I don't actually have the date in front of me. It's like September 25th or 26th or something like that. Maybe it's the 27th or 28th. Anyways, it's always like the last weekend of September. So, June, July, August, September. So I basically have 4 months between from my first race to my last race of the slam. But now filling in the calendar is really where things get interesting because there's a lot of great options. The way I look at it is, I just got into Leadville this year. I got in with some volunteer credits that a friend gave me. I call it karma because I have crewed and paced Leadville 4 times now. So I call getting those volunteer credits karma for helping other people finish the race, which is, I think, cool. And coaching people for the race, which I've done a few times. Here's if you're training for the Leadville 100, I have run, paced, crewed it I've crewed and paced it 4 different times. I've run it now myself in sub 24 hours. So if you're looking for a coach for the Leadville 100, I happen to think I'm a pretty good coaching option for that race. So hit me up if you're looking for a Leadville 100 coach this year. All right, I'll get back to the actual schedule programming. So Leadville, I highly doubt I'll get in 2 years in a row. It's a really hard lottery to get into. I said at the beginning of this episode, I'm taking on a Buff ambassadorship. Buff is a sponsor for Leadville. It doesn't sound like they can guarantee me an entry, but Leadville, they have that little box on their website that says if you where you can like say a fun fact about yourself or an inspiring story. So, if I say in there like I'm a buff ambassador, maybe they'll take that into account and let me into their quote unquote lottery. But I'm not counting on it. So I would be surprised if I got into Leadville 2 years in a row. So that kind of leads me to say that I'm probably going to be doing the Wyoming Range 100 in August. I guess I'm kind of working backwards now. I skipped over a lot of events that are in June and July. But yeah, I just bring that up just to kind of give you an idea of where I'm at. And then I'll go to, I'll just skip back. So the second race in the series would be Bighorn. Like I was saying earlier, I like the idea of trying some new events going into 2026. I've already done the Bear, I've done Leadville, I've done Bighorn. I don't really want to do Bighorn, Leadville, and the Bear and do 3 races that I've already done before. I want to see some new stuff, hence Scout Mountain. But I did also volunteer at High Lonesome this year. I volunteered at the Monarch Ski Resort aid station, which was at 12,000 feet overnight. I wanted to do a really hard volunteer shift this year because of all the racing that I've done, just to give back to the community. So I do have some volunteer hours that will boost my chances of getting into the High Lonesome lottery. So I'm definitely going to be applying to High Lonesome. And if I don't get into High Lonesome, then the same weekend as High Lonesome is the Uray 100. So as you can already tell what my 4 events are probably going to be this year. It's going to be Scout Mountain, hopefully High Lonesome if I get into the lottery, but if not, I'll do the Uray 100. And then I'm probably not getting into Leadville 2 times in a row. So I'll be doing the Wyoming Range 100 most likely in August, and then in September I'll be doing the Bear 100. So that's what my schedule is going to look like. I think it's pretty cool. I think this is like a harder way of doing a slam because, Uray is definitely the hardest race of the series with like 42,000 feet of vertical gain just in that race. Has like a 48-hour cutoff. And then the Wyoming Range 100, I think it's 24,000 feet of gain. Oh, I should have looked that up before this episode. I want to say it's 24K. But that also has like a 48-hour cutoff. Yeah, I think that there's 3 races in the series with a 48-hour cutoff. It's Uray, it's Wyoming Range, and it's Hard Rock. But let's be real, none of us are getting into Hard Rock. Almost none of us are getting into Hard Rock. So with that said, the Uray 100 and the Wyoming Range 100 being 48-hour cutoff kind of races. Uray with 42K and Wyoming Range with us. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna just Google it mid-episode. Wyoming Range 100 vertical gain. I want to make sure I get this right for folks. Alrighty. Wyoming Range 100, 24,000. I was right. All right. See, I'm not too bad at this. I know my shit. All right. So Wyoming Range of 24K. And the other thing that's really hard about doing Uray and the Wyoming Range 100 is that Uray is only 2 weeks before the Wyoming Range 100. So I think that doing the 2 hardest races of the series within 2 weeks of each other presents a very unique challenge. It's almost like you're doing a 200-miler within a 2-week time frame, so you kind of have to treat it that way. And I think that sounds really cool. The other race on here that really piques my interest, though, is the Crazy Mountain 100 up in Montana. That's a really big loop, and that also has 20-plus thousand feet of vertical gain. The mountains out there just look friggin' spectacular. Really want to do that race, but Crazy Mountain is 1 week before Wyoming Range. I'd prefer an extra week before Wyoming Range. And the other thing is, like, if I'm going to do a slam, I live in Boulder, Colorado. I feel like I got to run a Colorado race, whether that's Uray or Crazy Mountain or Leadville. I mean, who knows? I have, how many tickets do I have to Hard Rock? 16 tickets. I think it's like a 1 or a 2% chance of getting in. Probably not getting in. But I feel like I need to run a Colorado race if I'm going to be doing a Rocky Mountain Slam. So, it only makes sense that I do Uray or Hilo most likely. Or who knows, Leadville. I mean, a really cool slam would be like Scout Mountain, Crazy Mountain, Leadville, the Bear. There's so many combinations and permutations, but, I think that I'm really confident with the route that I've chosen. Once again, that's Scout Mountain, and then Uray or Hilo, and then Wyoming Range, and then the Bear. So those are the 4 that I'm going to be doing in 2026 most likely. I would be surprised if that's not what ends up happening. But like I was saying before, there are more slams in ultra running than just the Rocky Mountain Slam. Perhaps the most well-known one is the Grand Slam of ultra running, which includes the Old Dominion 100 miler, Western States, the Vermont 100, the Leadville 100, and the Wasatch Front 100. So, in order to be eligible for the Grand Slam of ultra running, participants need to complete three of the first four events in that series. So once again, that's either Old Dominion, Western States, Vermont, or Leadville. Leadville's pretty hard to get into, so most people, I think, these days do Old Dominion, Western, and then Vermont, and then they do Wasatch. Wasatch Front is so the Wasatch 100 is mandatory, kind of like how the Bear 100 is mandatory in the Rocky Mountain Slam to finish up. Wasatch is a lottery. I'm not sure if they give preference to folks who have done the first three events of the series, though, in terms of being able to get in. With that said, there are other Grand Slams as well. Probably the hardest one in the U.S. right now is the Grand Slam of 200s, which is the Cocodona 250, the Bigfoot 200, the Moab 240. Tahoe 200. I don't think I said Tahoe. So it's Cocodona, Bigfoot, Tahoe, and Moab 240. So that's also a 4-race series of 200 milers, though. And then Destination Trail, they also have their Triple Crown of 200 milers, which is Bigfoot, Tahoe, and Moab. They just got the Monster, so I forgot what they call the 4-pack of their races. So, just because you're not interested in or don't live in, the Rocky Mountains, doesn't mean you can't do a slam of your own. There are quite a few different ones out there. And then there's also, lesser known ones out there. I think a lot of people have heard of, the Grand Slam of 200s or the Grand Slam of ultra running, but there are lesser known slams that do exist. One of those is the Midwest Slam of ultra running. So that actually is there's 5 races there, and you need to do 4 of those 5 in order to finish it. So the Midwest Slam of ultra running is the Mohican 100, the Kettle Moraine 100, Burning River 100, Hallucination 100, and 100. So Mohicans in Ohio, Kettle Moraines in Wisconsin, Burning River is Ohio, Hallucination is, I'm not sure actually. I forgot to look that up. My guess would be Illinois. I'm not sure. Indiana, obviously in Indiana. So, if you live in the Midwest, that could be a really cool option for you. And then on the East Coast, I was trying to find some options for everybody out there. On the East Coast, there's the Beast Trail series. So basically they have 7 races and you need to do 6 of them. You can kind of mix and match distances as long as participants accumulate a minimum of 200 miles over the course of the events that they complete. So that's also kind of cool. They have some 50Ks, 100K, 25K. They have a 12-hour event. As long as you reach 200 miles, you complete their trail series. And then for my Colorado peeps out there, I'll give a shout out to the NAR Slam. So the NAR Slam is here in basically on the Front Range of Colorado. So NAR runners, you guys may have heard of them, especially a lot of people listening to this podcast. If you live in Colorado, you've probably heard of NAR runners. I would hope you have. NAR runners, they put on, I think their best event is the Never Summer 100K. I've done it twice. Probably the best 100K in Colorado. I haven't done every 100K in Colorado, but I'd be very surprised if there is a better event that is just a combination of super well put on and super beautiful and super difficult, the same way Never Summer is. So Never Summer is just an awesome race. That's another really, you can't say too many good words about Never Summer. It's just an epic adventure. But anyways, the NAR Slam consists of the Quad Rock 50 miler, which is up in Fort Collins, Never Summer 100K, which is about an hour and a half west of Fort Collins, about 3 hours from Denver. The Black Squirrel Half Marathon is on the Quad Rock course, so that's also Laurie State Park by Fort Collins. And then the Blue Sky Marathon, which is also just outside of Fort Collins. And then they also have a mini slam, so if you're not interested in running a 50 miler and a 100K, you can do, they have their, I think it's I want to say the first race of that series is, the Quad Rock 25 miler, and then the Never Summer 60K, the Black Squirrel Half Marathon, and then the Blue Sky Marathon or Half Marathon, depending on what you're interested in. Anyways, the key takeaway here is that, you can do your own research and likely find a slam or race series consisting of multiple events by you. I think this is a really cool way to stay motivated for an upcoming year and challenge yourself in a new and interesting and fun way. I think that the most important part of building out a schedule this time of year for the coming year in 2026 is that you really got to be excited for the events that you're doing. People often will ask me, Stefan, which event should I do? This one, or this one? And yeah, I've done a lot of events and I can give you a lot of great feedback on these events. I've said good words about Bighorn and Bear and Never Summer on this podcast episode, for example. But at the end of the day, my biggest piece of advice to people is you got to go with your gut feeling. If your gut is excited for a specific race, then you got to listen to your gut and you should sign up for that one. Just because something logically should make more sense in your calendar or should be something you want to do doesn't mean it is what you want to do. You got to do what you're excited for. And oftentimes that just means listening to your gut and doing what your gut says. My gut is telling me the Rocky Mountain Slam is going to be my goal for 2026. I'm super stoked to be, I can't say I'm training for it yet because I haven't signed up for, none of the races have opened yet. The Bear 100 lottery opens this Saturday as I record this Wednesday, November 12th, but that's not even open yet. So, I can't say I'm training for it yet, but I am super stoked to start putting out some information about how I'm training for these events once 2026 rolls around and my calendar is set in stone. Yeah, I'm super stoked. I hope you were able to learn something new and cool about the sport of ultra running in this episode. Hopefully this gave you some new ideas in terms of how to make a race schedule and helps you be creative in terms of making your 2026 racing schedule. Yeah, I think that's all I got for today. I really appreciate you guys taking a moment to listen. Once again, this is Stefan signing off with the Journey Run podcast, where the goal is to help you run farther, feel smarter, and develop character through trail and ultra running. As always, I like to remind people at the end of the episode, if you or anyone you know is looking for a coach or a registered dietitian, please do reach out to me directly at journeyruncoaching.com or via email at journeyrunningllc@gmail.com. Once again, it would mean the world to me if you took just a moment of your time to like, rate, subscribe to the show. It does go a long way for me. With that said, thank you so much for taking your very valuable time to listen to this episode. Really appreciate your time, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.